So welcome really to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths higher topic of frequency trees. Now the questions that we go through in this video will be available for you to download by simply clicking on the link in the description, which I strongly recommend you do so you can see how much of the topic you understand and how much you need to go over. Now before we get started working through some exam questions related to frequency trees, let's just have a quick overview over what we can expect when answering these questions. Now the linked topics with regards to frequency trees is you do need to have a decent knowledge on how to work out fractions of amounts, percentage of amounts, sharing ratios and working with proportion. Now once you've completed your frequency tree, often it's then linked to a probability or a proportion question. Now these questions are often worth 3 to 4 marks depending on how many numbers there are to find, so make sure that you do read the information carefully and don't rush to simply fill in the numbers. Even though it may seem really obvious, you really do need to check the wording of each of the aspects of the information that's given. So let's get straight into question 1. So question 1 says 80 people choose a cheese or ham sandwich on either white or brown bread. 37 people choose white bread, 18 of these choose cheese, 15 people choose brown bread with ham. Complete the frequency tree. So we know that the grand total of sandwiches is 80. So looking at the first one, now you tend to fill these frequency trees usually in the order in which it gives you information. So we know that 37 people chose white, and there are only 2 options. So to work out this one here, all we need to do is just do 40, take away 37, sorry, 80 divided, take away 37, which gives me an answer of 43. Now, in terms of the next one I can work out is going to be this one. Well, I know that these 2 numbers plus 18 is going to equal 37. So to work out this one, it's simply going to be 37, take away 18, which gives me an answer of 19. And then to work out my third and final missing number, well, these 2 numbers need to add up to 43. So this one's going to be 43, take away 15, which gives me an answer of 28. For 1b, it then says how many people in total choose cheese. Well, the people in number choose cheese. Well, white and cheese is 18, brown and cheese is 28. So it's going to be 18 plus 28, which equals 46. Now make sure that if you've done enough practice of these, you may find that they're going to be probability questions. So don't write everything as a fraction, because again, make sure you read the question, because it might just ask you for the number rather than the proportion or probability. Which then leads us on to question 1c, which then says what fraction of the people choose brown bread with ham? Give your answer in its simplest form. So if I go back to this here, you can see that the number of people who choose brown and ham is 15. So it's 15 out of the total. So it's going to be 15 out of 80, which simplifies, and we want to give our answer in its simplest form, which is 3 over 16. Now moving on to question 2a, it says some year 10 and year 11 students were asked if they did any homework last night. There are 24 more students in year 10 than there are in year 11. There were twice as many year 10 students that did not do any homework than year 11 students. Complete the frequency tree, and we've got a total of 5 boxes and 5 marks on offer. So first things first, we can see that in the bit of information it tells us that we've got 24 more students in year 10 than year 11. So to work out this number here, I've got to do 62 take away the 24, which gives me an answer of 38. Then from this, what I can then do is then work out what the grand total is by doing 62 plus 38, which is 100. Then from this, what I've then got to do is use this information here. So it says twice as many students in year 10 did not do any homework than year 11 students. So for this one, if I take this one here, then I can see that this one is going to be, well, I can easily work that one out, because that's going to be 38 take away 10, which is 28. Then going back to this statement, which I've probably read out about 3 times now, not done anything with it. So it says that twice as many students in year 10 did not do any homework than year 11 students, which therefore means that this number here is going to be double of this number here, So that one is going to be 2 times 10, which is 20. And then finally, I can then work out my last one, which is 62 minus 20, which is 42. So there's my completed frequency tree. Then for 2b, it says one student is chosen at random. What is the probability that they did some homework last night? Well, the probability that they did homework last night is 42 and 28. So it's 42 plus 28, which gives me 70. And it's 70 over 100, which is 7 over 10 or 0.7, depending on whether you want to work with fractions or decimals. Moving on to question 3, it says a football team plays 40 games in a season. Half of these were home games and half of them were away games. Each team was either a win, a draw or a loss. Of the home games, 3/5 were wins. Of the away games, a quarter were draws. Complete the frequency tree diagram. Well, looking at the first bit of information, we can see that half of the games were won and half of the games were away and half were home. So half of 40 is going to be 20, and that's going to be 20. Then we work with these fractions. So it then says 3/5 of the home games were wins. So we've got to work out 3/5 of 20. So 20 divided by 5 is 4, times 3 is 12. So the number of wins therefore for the home games is 12. I can then work out what this box here is going to be. So that's going to be 20 minus 12 minus 3, which gives me an answer of 5. Then working with the second fraction, I've got a quarter of the away games were draws. So it's going to be a quarter of 20, which is 5. So that's going to be 5. Then to work out what this one here is going to be, well, that's going to be 20 minus 13 minus 5, which gives me an answer of 2. Then for question 3, it says the team gets 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 points for a loss. How many points in total did they get? Well, in terms of the win, so if I look at the tree diagram again, in terms of how many games did they win? Well, they won 12 and 2, so that's 14. So 12 plus 2 is 14. Times that by 3, in which then I get an answer of 42. And then for the draw, how many games did they draw? Well, I've got 3 plus 5, which is 8. So it's going to be 8 times 1, which is 8. So 8 points. So then all in all, the total number of points is going to be 42 plus 8, which is 50. Then moving on to question 4, it says driving tests are taken in 2 parts. The theory test is taken first, and only if this is passed can the practical test be taken. 50 people take the theory test, in which 64% pass. All of those who pass take the practical test, and 62.5 pass. Complete the frequency tree. So first things first, we know that 50 people take the theory test, so that's going to be 50. And of those 50, 64 pass. So 64% of 50 is going to be, and we can work that out. So either we can do 64% of 100, which is 64. Then we divide that by 2 and we get 32. So this here is going to be 32. And therefore then this is going to be 18. It then says out of those who pass the practical test, 62.5% pass. So for this one, if we have pass and fail, so in terms of this block here, we want to do 62.5% of 32. Now I assume from that percentage that this is going to be on a calculator paper. So 0.625 times 32 gives me an answer of 20. And if 20 plus what gives you 32, well, that's going to be 12. So moving on to 4b, it says at one test centre in the year 10,698 began taking their driving test. Based on the data above, approximately how many people would be expected to pass both tests? Give your answer to two significant figures. So in terms of this, let's first of all work out the proportion of a pass. So in terms of the number of people that pass is 20 out of 50, which is 2/5. Then if I then look at the estimated total, I'm going to multiply that proportion of 2/5 by the total number of people, which is 10,698. Now if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 4279.2. Now the question is asking me to round this number up to 2 sig fig. So the second significant figure is 100. So I want to round this number up to the nearest 100, which gives me my answer of 4300, and that's to 2SF. Then moving on to our last question, it says that 68 people went to the cinema to see a horror film and 32 went to see a comedy film. 75 of these people had a discount voucher. 4 times as many people who saw the horror film then saw the comedy film had a voucher. Complete the frequency tree diagram. So let's have a look at what we can fill out first. So let's first of all work out the total number of people, which is going to be 68 plus 32, which is 100. Then from this we know that 68 people went to see a horror film. So this number plus this number needs to add up to 68, and this number and this number need to add up to 32. Now, so from this we can then say that 75 people used a voucher. So 75 people used a voucher. How many didn't use a voucher is going to be 25. Then from this, it then says 4 times as many people who saw a horror film then saw a comedy film had a voucher. So from this, what we need to do is we know that 4x, so if I wrote down that horror to comedy is in the ratio of 4:1. So if I just put an x there, because we don't know exactly how many there are of each, but what I do know is that 4x plus 1x equals 75 people, because it tells me that 75 people had a voucher. Then from this, what we can then do is then work out what x is. So 5x equals 75, so x equals 15. So in terms of the horror people that had a voucher, well, that's going to be equal to 4 times 15, which is 45. So then, sorry, 60 that should be, not 45. Is 60. So that means that 60 goes here, and from the comedy, that's going to be 1 times 15, which is 15, and that's going to go here. Let me just rub out that one there. So then from this, I can then work out what those missing numbers are, because this number plus this number needs to add up to 68. So that means that that's going to be 8. And this number plus this number needs to add up to 32. So if I then do 32 take away 15, that gives me 17. And that completes my frequency tree diagram. Then for 5b, it then says a cinema cost £12.40. The voucher gives a 15% discount. How much money did the cinema take for the tickets of these people? Well, with a voucher, the price of the ticket is going to be £12.40 multiplied by 15% discount, so you're only paying 85%, so that's going to be times 0.85, and I need to multiply that by the number of people, which is 75. Then without a voucher, there were 25 people, so that's going to be 25, and they're going to be paying full price of £12.50. So then if I work out the top amount, that becomes 790.50, and the without the voucher is going to be 12.4 times 25, which is 310. So then all I then need to do is just simply add those two numbers up, in which the cinema recoups £1,100 and 50 pence.